In today's top story, Trump is panicking after the recent church shooters video just leaked. That's right, things are only looking worse for Donald Trump and the Republicans. How's it going, everybody? Hunter Avalone here. Welcome back to another video. By now, we're all aware of the tragedy that has taken place in Minneapolis, and we're about to learn a little bit more about the perpetrator. But first, let's take a look at how Stephen Miller just recently accused the Democrats of being domestic terrorists.
Democrat Party does not fight for, care about, or represent American citizens. It is an entity devoted exclusively to the defense of hardened criminals, gangbangers, and illegal alien killers and terrorists. The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization. Look at Chicago. They've shut down the police department. They've handcuffed law enforcement. And as President Trump says, they have turned the streets of Chicago into a bloody killing field. Here in Washington, D.C., before President Trump launched the federal law enforcement liberation in D.C., there was a murder on the streets of this town every other day. Body after body after body after body.
Meanwhile, people try to say Trump is super pro-law enforcement. Well, look at what he's actually doing, not what he's saying.
Fired or pushed out the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, Second in Command of the Air Force, the Commandant of the Coast Guard, the Chief of Naval Operations, the Deputy Head of the NSA, the Head of the NSA and the Head of Cyber Command, the Chair of the National Intelligence Council. Now, just recently on Friday, they fired the Head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Chief of the U.S. Navy Reserve, and also the Head of the Navy SEALs. And this comes on top of the evisceration of the National Security Division of the Department of Justice and the wholesale reassignment or removal of the FBI's National Security Core operations. And you can follow these stories one by one, or you can look at the big picture and recognize that what's happening here might be quite important, particularly in the national security sphere. He is deprofessionalizing the U.S. military and federal law enforcement and federal emergency response, while he is turning those kinds of forces against the American people on American soil. If this were happening in any other country, what we would know instinctively was that the reason a leader would do something like that is because that leader wants to use those forces differently than what they've been trained for. A leader trying to deprofessionalize the sharp end of the spear does so because he wants to remove any professional restraint or internal ethics or culture that might otherwise hold those forces back from what he is now going to ask them to do. Watch what he does, not what he says.
And now Trump is panicking as the Minneapolis church shooters video just leaked. Be warned, this is a bit disturbing. Take a look at today's top story.
Watch my 9mm go bang.
Disturbing new details are emerging from the tragedy at the Minneapolis Catholic school. An unconfirmed video allegedly posted just hours before the attack shows the shooter flaunting an arsenal of weapons.
I'm the woker, baby.
And in that same clip, he explicitly endorses Brandon Herrera, a Republican congressional candidate who once worked on Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. The leak has left Trump's circle scrambling, as critics argue this is yet another example of Republican extremism feeding violent ideology.
Message brought to you by BlackRock and ExxonMobil. Sponsored by Pabst Blue Ribbon. Brandon Herrera for president. Yeah, I met Brandon Herrera at SHOT Show last year. He and I had a brief conversation, but I think we agreed on a lot of things. So, y'all should vote for Brandon Herrera for president. And, Vintage Warfare promotes love and peace and accepting differences. Tomorrow, I'm sorry, to my family. But that's it. That's the only people I'm sorry to. Those kids.
Thanks so much for watching. Please click that like button and subscribe to Occupy Democrats so that you can stay informed and help us stop Donald Trump.